Our team has got you covered. In an exclusive one-on-one interview, Jeff Harris talks with a lawmaker serving on the assassination task force. Plus, Kayla Gaskins with a look at the Democrats now under fire for communications with Epstein. And Emma Withrow digs into what's next with the files after the bill is passed to force a release. But first, we go straight to Ryan Smith at the live desk with a new breaking developments, Ryan, from the White House tonight.
Yeah, breaking tonight here at the live desk. President Trump announcing about 90 minutes ago that he has now signed officially the bill to release the files on Jeffrey Epstein. He said in a lengthy Truth Social post here tonight, quote, "At my direction, the Department of Justice has already turned over close to 50,000 pages of documents to Congress. Do not forget, the Biden administration did not turn over a single file or page related to Democrat Epstein, nor did they ever even speak out about him." He closes with here, "This latest hoax will backfire on the Democrats, just as all of the rest have."
It sounds like Pam Bondi has had this information at the same time that the president has still been calling it a hoax or a Democrat hoax. So not only are they changing their tune all the time, they don't seem to be singing from the same hymnal.
Take you out live over Capitol Hill tonight. That is where the investigation into Jeffrey Epstein and that scandal, well, it moves forward. House Oversight Committee Chair James Comer here issuing subpoenas to J.P. Morgan Chase and Deutsche Bank, compelling them to turn over Epstein's financial records. Both big banks there agreed to substantial settlements with Epstein's victims in 2023.
Back to our top story tonight. The Epstein files have been given a green light for release, but that does not mean they'll be available for all to see. Let's go to Emma Withrow from the Fact Check team. And even after the progress in both chambers of Congress, Emma, can you explain the avenue that the DOJ could potentially follow to withhold certain documents?
Yeah, so the thing is, even though the bill forces the DOJ's hand to release all the files, the power still lies within the DOJ. Now, I know this seems kind of like, what's the point of all of this? But it's because just a few days ago, Trump ordered the DOJ to investigate Democrats linked to Epstein. We're talking Bill Clinton, Larry Summers, Reid Hoffman, and J.P. Morgan. So why does any of that matter? Well, there's a list of provisions written into this bill, the Epstein Transparency Act. You can see them right there on your screen. That specifically allows the DOJ to withhold the files. And one of those provisions is that if the documents would, quote unquote, jeopardize an active federal investigation or ongoing prosecution, so long as the withholding is narrowly tailored and temporary, they're allowed to keep them sealed until that investigation wrapped up.
And the thing with this story is under scrutiny has always been timing.
Yeah.
As far as those investigations into Democrats go, many have said, why now? What is the new information that is leading the DOJ to open up these investigations? What did you find?
Yeah, that's where critics are saying this is getting more politicized. So, you know, in a July memo, the DOJ made several definitive statements. They said they found no credible evidence of a client list or no evidence of blackmail operations. And they explicitly wrote in this memo, we did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. The only new information that's come out publicly regarding Epstein recently was those 20,000 emails that came out last week that were released to House Oversight by the Epstein estate. But there's really no confirmation that those emails are connected or led to the new DOJ investigation. So we're still waiting on getting some definitive information on what they're talking about when it comes to this new information that led to these new investigations.
All right, Emma, thank you so much. And for more on this Fact Check team topic, including links to their sources, scan the QR code or visit thenationaldesk.com. We begin this half hour with the passage of the Epstein Files Transparency Act last month, which has started a domino effect of orders to unseal more records regarding the sex offender's past. Ryan Smith at the live desk with the latest state, Ryan, pushing for answers.
Yeah, we go to Florida here. A federal judge in Orlando just signed off today on the DOJ to release decades-old transcripts from a grand jury investigation into Epstein's abuse of underage girls in Florida. That case ultimately ended without any federal charges filed. The judge there agreed to modify a protective order after the passage, as mentioned, of the Epstein Files Transparency Act. That act was signed into law just last month. Now, the Justice Department has made similar requests to two judges in New York to unseal transcripts, which are typically shielded by very strict grand jury secrecy laws. Now, these new files would come from the DOJ's indictment back in 2007. Epstein's attorneys at the time attacked the credibility of his accusers out publicly while secretly negotiating a plea bargain that helped him avoid any serious jail time. Years later, a DOJ report found that the lead U.S. attorney in Miami on that case, Alex Acosta, exercised, quote, poor judgment in his handling of the investigation. And public outrage led to his resignation there as Trump's labor secretary at the time. That was back in Trump's first term.
Could we possibly see Bill and Hillary Clinton testify about their connection to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein? Well, they were ordered to do so. The House Oversight Committee issued subpoenas in August to the Clintons and other well-known Democrats, but the Clintons refused to show up. Now the committee is threatening to hold the Clintons in contempt of Congress if they fail to show up for their in-person depositions. Bill Clinton scheduled for apparently December 17th, Hillary December 18th.
It is 18 minutes past the hour. This morning at the live desk, we have a live look over Capitol Hill and some news on the Jeffrey Epstein situation. A federal judge has now ordered the Trump administration to give a description of all the materials it intends to publicly release about convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, and this is in an effort to protect his victims. Here's a look right now at what the order includes: a detailed description of the privacy process, any redactions, as well as a description of the materials subject to a July 25th, 2019 protective order. That order comes after attorneys who represent some of the victims say documents recently uploaded, quote, have exposed the identities of the victims and caused significant emotional distress. You'll remember earlier this month, President Trump signed legislation forcing the DOJ to release those unclassified records, documents, and other materials related to Epstein. The U.S. District Judge gave the Department of Justice until noon next week on Monday to roll out and provide all of that information.
We will follow the law. The law passed both chambers last evening. It has not yet been signed, but we will continue to follow the law, again, while protecting victims, but also providing maximum transparency.
Madam Attorney General, the DOJ statement earlier this year saying that the files would not release mentioned the fact that the review of the documents and the evidence did not suggest that any additional investigation of third parties was warranted. What changed since then that you launched this investigation?
Information that has come for information. There's information that new information, additional information, and again, we will continue to follow the law, to investigate any leads. If there are any victims, we encourage all victims to come forward, and we will continue to provide maximum transparency under the law.
For a look at how we got to this point and what could come next, let's bring in former U.S. Attorney John Fishwick. John, as you know, the House Oversight Committee took the lead in the subpoena of Jeffrey Epstein's estate and in the subpoena to banks for his financial records. As we kind of take a look back at how we got here, why not the DOJ? Why do you think this is all unfolding now?
Well, the House Oversight Committee has certainly been aggressive in getting documents and making them available to the public, and that's a good thing. DOJ, unfortunately, though, said this past summer in July, they've looked at all the Epstein file. They did not see any criminal conduct that was worth investigating and moving forward. They basically said they were at a dead end. But the House Oversight Committee has aggressively kind of pursued this. I hope they will continue to pursue it and release it. But DOJ has been quiet, but basically said this summer there's no criminal case, no criminal lead that we're going to pursue.
Well, even though the president has signed a bill to release the Epstein files, it is still up to the DOJ which information is public or redacted, correct?
Correct, Dee Dee. So I think the public may be a little disappointed. There's not going to be a huge unveiling of all the Epstein file. DOJ has the power, typically, and also under this law to say, look, we've got an ongoing investigation. President Trump and Pam Bondi has asked us to investigate Democrats. And so that could be a hold on some of these documents. Also, anything that's very sensitive as relates to victims or obviously pornographic sort of information, that'll be not be produced to the public. But I do think the ongoing investigations will be something that will put a hold on these document release. I think that's unfortunate. I think the public's ready to see all this information.
And as you just mentioned, you'll remember last week Trump ordered that investigation into the Democrats you just mentioned, allegedly connected to Epstein. Do you believe, it doesn't sound like you do, but do you believe the 30-day deadline to release the files will be met? And if it is, will Americans ever get the complete files?
I think the unfortunate thing for Americans is, there have been a lot of starts and stops on releasing the Epstein files and the Epstein documents, and we obviously don't have them all. I don't think at the end of this 30-day period we're going to get them all. I expect we'll get some of them, Dee Dee, but I think a lot of it will not be produced. I think DOJ is going to say, look, we've been ordered to do an investigation, and typically what we do until that investigation is complete, we don't want to taint that investigation, so we don't release everything. So I think there'll be a partial release by DOJ, but not the complete files.
All right, we'll put a pin in that. Before I let you go, John, finally, a lot of questions, including from a judge overseeing the case of former FBI Director James Comey. The DOJ first said the indictment against Comey was never presented to the full grand jury. Now federal prosecutors are saying it was reviewed. So a lot of back and forth. What do you think is happening here, and how strong is Comey's argument that the case should be dropped?
Yeah, there's a little uncertainty about what happened in the grand jury room because they voted down one of the indictments, but when they voted down that one indictment, they did approve two of the charges. Remember, though, the ultimate catch-all safeguard for DOJ, even if the judge dismisses it, that they have a 6-month safeguard that lets them refile the charges even if the judge dismisses it. So this case is going to continue to move forward. There is going to be back and forth about what happened in the grand jury, but ultimately this case is going to be move forward, but there's going to be a lot of legal action and appeals before that takes place.
All right, former U.S. Attorney John Fishwick, as always, thank you for your time and expertise tonight.
Thank you.